Today, the lecture is about communication. If you don't have the spirit, don't talk. The very first thing that I thought of when I was just studying this lesson is, first of all, you have to know what it feels like for you when you have the spirit, because if you don't know what that feels like, then you're never going to know when to talk or not. So your brain has lots of different parts to it that are in charge of lots of different things. And we know through science that the cerebral cortex or the frontal lobe, that's kind of the place in your brain that's responsible for thinking and logic and just like rational thought. Then there's the limbic system, a part of your brain. It's also called the animal brain. And that is kind of the part of your brain that's responsible for reactions like fight or flight, emotions. In this little analogy here, the prefrontal cerebral cortex is going to be represented by the rider, and the limbic system is going to be represented by the horse. We have these different levels of where you could be at spiritually, emotionally. So level 0 is the rider and the horse. So your brain is just enjoying life. Everything is good. Nothing is wrong. A level 1, we call it the flash. If you notice, there's a little snake in the grass down here, and it's really hard to see, which I did that on purpose because at a level 1, your limbic system or your animal brain is aware that something is wrong, but the rider isn't quite aware yet. But something is kind of off. The horse starts to kind of prick up its ears and start to act nervous. And at a level 2, the rider or your prefrontal cortex kind of starts catching on, like, okay, something is wrong here. My horse is kind of wigging out, and so I know that something is wrong. And then a level 3 is when the horse starts to kind of freak out, or your heart starts beating faster, maybe your palms start sweating, whatever it may be, and the rider is fighting to calm the horse down and to stay in control. A level 3 is kind of that point where this is kind of getting hard. A level 4 is where the rider maybe starts to rationalize, oh my gosh, this is so hard. My horse is starting to get out of control. I've been trying to keep it under control, but this is just not working. Maybe it would just be easier to get off the horse altogether and just give up. And a level 5 is the point where the rider is just like, you know what, this is too hard. I'm just gonna get off the horse and let it run crazy. It's gonna start bucking, all the things. I'm just gonna walk through a real life example that I experienced a couple days ago to try to help make this a little bit more clear. I was playing pickleball with my husband. We're just getting into pickleball, so neither of us really know what we're doing. We were gonna play with friends. They weren't able to come, so it was just me and my husband. So we thought, let's just practice some skills. I really needed to work on my serve. At a level 0, my husband and I were just having fun, playing pickleball, serving it back and forth. My husband was giving me some pointers, teaching me how to hit it better, since he knows how to do the racket thing and I don't. A level 1 is when it was the flash. I started to notice that my serve wasn't as good as I wanted it. I could feel something was off, but I didn't really quite realize it yet until I hit a level 2 when I was bugged that my serve wasn't going in. And all of this, I didn't really realize was happening. This is all me reflecting back and analyzing this and trying to think, okay, what happened at this level? A level 3 was, okay, I'm frustrated. I don't like to feel not good at something, and it kind of makes me feel bad about myself. And so there's this idea of, hey, what if instead of just being patient with myself that I'm brand new to this sport and I'm not good at it yet, I'm just going to be frustrated instead. But instead of being frustrated at myself and accepting that maybe I'm not good at something, I'm going to blame my husband. I'm going to blame him for being a bad teacher. Hey, that's a good idea. And I could feel myself starting to get angry at my husband, and I started being so mad at him because in basketball, I was like, you have this form and you're not teaching me the right form, and that's why I can't serve it inbounds, because you're not teaching me right. That was kind of me getting off the horse and letting my animal brain take control, because I started yelling at my husband. In a codependent relationship, he probably would have gotten defensive and been, what the heck? Why are you attacking me? I'm just trying to help you, blah, 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 blah. But he is really, really awesome. And he was kind of just like, Claire, it's okay. You're just beginning. I'm just trying my best. I don't really know what I'm doing either. I know a little bit, so I'm just trying to share what I know. So he was really good at not being codependent and not getting escalated because I was escalated. And because he was able to be more emotionally mature than I was able to kind of de-escalate. Anyways, that is kind of like a real life example of the chemical scale. So I would say probably at level 3 is when I officially lost the spirit, because at a level 0, I was good. Level 1, maybe I was a little uncomfortable. Level 2, I was starting to get frustrated. And then level 3 was when now I'm not acting within my value system and I'm considering lashing out at my husband. And I ended up doing it. And the reason I share this with you is because when I started feeling myself getting frustrated and considered the idea of lashing out at my husband, I should have been able to recognize that. In an ideal world where you are very emotionally in control, you could say, okay, can we just take a break from pickleball for a minute? I need to go regroup and I need to calm down for a minute. If I was able to identify that before I started getting angry at my husband, then I could have avoided communicating without the spirit and acting outside of my value system. And this is, again, something that has taken me weeks of examining and practicing to be able to walk through it like that. Eternal Warriors is a great program to help you master these skills and get you some more practice if you're interested in that. But anyways, now we have this little handout to kind of help you practice that process a little bit. This is honestly just a different format of a lost battle analysis. And it's like a process of discovering, planning, acting, and reflecting, right? So what we have on the first page is, what does it feel like to have the spirit with me? And I think that's really important for you to realize, or what is my level 0? How do I feel when everything is just good? If you don't really know how that feels, or you haven't felt that way in a long time, that's a very important question to reflect on, because you might just be sitting at a level 3 all the time. And so it's really important to figure out, how do I get to a level 0 where I can feel the spirit and where I feel really good? And this is going to take studying. It's not going to be a super clear answer right at first. Once you kind of figure out what it feels like to have the spirit with you, the next page is a situation or a pattern in which you find yourself losing the spirit. Then you can kind of reflect on, what are some reasons for losing your ideal state of mind? With the pickleball situation, it could be, I often feel insecure about myself. I acted out on my husband because rather than taking responsibility for my own insecurity, I blamed my husband, so I didn't have to face that. And so in the future, I would hope to respond by being more patient with myself and not worrying that I'm not perfect at first. This is a great worksheet to kind of help you examine whether or not you have the spirit with you in communication, and maybe where you go wrong and how you could be different next time. As you can see, both of these brains have the spirit with them, represented by this cute little ghost in the heart. And when they both have the spirit, they're able to communicate, because communicating is a two-way street. When both people have the spirit, they're able to communicate in a way where all the Tetris blocks are able to align and just be organized and great, and you can win the Tetris game and all the blocks will disappear. You won't get any clogs or anything like that. And honestly, this probably doesn't happen a lot. This could be really, really hard to get to, because it involves both the speaker and the listener. And as you know, in conversations, you bounce between those roles. You need to have the spirit in both of those roles. This is what can happen a lot of times, where maybe the speaker, the one with the spirit, sends a message, this blue Tetris block, but maybe the listener misinterprets it for whatever reason, because Satan is there telling them lies and kind of pushing this block to not fit and to lodge in a place that it shouldn't be. This person is insecure, maybe like me, and Satan convinced me that I sucked, and so I needed to yell at my husband because of it. So that's like one thing that can happen. And then what often happens is then it becomes a cycle. Then it becomes a codependent trigger where this person's like, oh my gosh, they misinterpreted what I said and now their feelings are hurt. And then this person who had their feelings hurt just spewed a mess of Tetris blocks on the other person. It wasn't even organized at all. There was no attempt to have the spirit. And like I said, if he were to be in a codependent cycle with me, he would have threw it right back at me. Well, sorry that I'm just trying to teach you how to play pickleball, blah, 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 and then it would have just escalated and it would have just continued. And instead of having the spirit with us, we both would have been acting outside of our value system, and Satan would be like, woo! So that's kind of what happens a lot of the times. Or something Maurice talks about a lot. It's really important as the speaker to be aware, or not even to be aware, but even the listener to be aware, I'm in a place to listen right now, because maybe someone just comes and spews a bunch of Tetris blocks at you, and maybe their intention isn't bad, but maybe you're just not in a place to listen. it's a two-way thing. It's not just on the speaker, it's also on the listener to have the Spirit with them. What if instead of just getting in this escalating cycle of you're both spewing Tetris blocks at each other and communication is not occurring in an edifying way, you could try something different? Because, what do you do if someone comes and just spews Tetris blocks at you? That's a really hard thing to handle. And I think my husband in the pickleball situation did a really great job of handling me spewing Tetris blocks at him. This is a great place to apply your retreating with dignity phrases. And this is just protecting yourself and enabling you to keep the Spirit when you're in a situation that could be really escalated or heated, whatever it may be. This person is obviously not feeling super great. In any case, this isn't the right time to have a conversation because one or both of you don't have the Spirit. So in order for you to keep the Spirit, retreating with dignity is a great way to preserve that. Then you can go and be happy in your little space. And that is a great way for you to act within your personal values and to maintain that personal identity statement. The hope is that your partner will do the same. And maybe they'll consider, okay, well, they retreated with dignity, maybe I can too. The goal is eventually that both partners will be able to do that. And rather than spewing Tetris blocks at each other and hitting each other in the head, that they can both retreat with dignity, take care of themselves, reconnect with God, get the Spirit back with them. And then eventually you can come back to it again and say, how about we try that again? And then you can have this edifying experience where you both have the Spirit and you're able to communicate in a way that isn't destructive or kind of that nasty codependent cycle. Obviously, this is super hard to do. And like I said, this probably happens depending on your marriage. Maybe this has never happened. Maybe it happens once a week, once a month, maybe once a day. Because if you're anything like me, this happens a lot to me. Satan just gets something to rub me the wrong way, whatever it may be. So I've been practicing a lot to do this and say, hey, you know what, I think I need to take a break and figure out kind of what's going on.
Was there ever a time when Christ taught something with the Spirit and someone said, what you're saying is hurting my feelings? In their own language. I don't like what you're saying. I'm going to throw rocks at you. Now in D&C 50, it says, when the Spirit is present for everyone involved, both rejoice and are edified together. And so you'll know if the Spirit has been present because that's how the conversation will end. Now to debate over who ruined the moment isn't really useful. If you can tell it's not leading to both rejoice and are edified together, you follow Claire's instructions with a dignified retreat and say, okay, I'm going to go do something somewhere else. I'm going to go regroup, because maybe I'm regrouping because I just got hit in the head by a rock while I was trying to teach a true principle, and I probably should go regroup from that. It's a good idea to go recover when you've had something thrown at your head. Does that mean you lost the Spirit? No, it just means that you got hurt. We have an advantage over what Christ went through because Christ was stuck fulfilling his stewardship to teach things to people whether they wanted to hear them or not. That was his responsibility. But in a healthy marriage, you're not supposed to be the other person's teacher. In a healthy marriage, we're learning and growing together, so there's no reason why one person should be rejected by the other person. When you're building a bridge together, there is no rejection of each other. There's just talking through things and building them and revamping and making adjustments. You're going to be getting in this cycle thousands of times as you go through this.